There was a time in camera history when cameras looked beautiful. They were made to catch eyes, turn heads, and take photos, sometimes even in that order. For decades, from the 1930s until the late 1960s, camera design, the look, the way they feel, played as important a role in the camera development as the capabilities, the shutter mechanics, the lens optics, and the smoothness of the film transport system. Cameras were artisan products made by skilled craftsmen by hand, and they took great pride in their work and, I imagine, in seeing the cameras they made in use on the necks of tourists and friends. But beautiful design and quality interface elements are expensive, and when profit becomes paramount, eventually design ideals begin to erode. Some vintage camera design ideals held on through the 70s, though functional engineering began to drive camera design then, surmounting the importance of a camera's look or feel. By the 1980s, the fire of beautiful design had become almost extinct in the name of building cameras around the internal mechanisms. Gone were the sweeping lines, graceful curves, convenient and pleasingly pretty finger holds, and small conveniences developed to make cameras more enjoyable to use. The 1990s cameras tried to break away from the utilitarian camera look by giving them smooth lines, but that decade's cameras always felt like imitations, and the internals of very many 1990s cameras have long since failed anyway. The 90s were a decade of inexpensive cameras designed to be used for a time and then discarded without concern. The pendulum had swung to the far end. Far from quality-lasting machines made by skilled workers and short-term devices planned to have lifespans not much longer than that of a gallon of milk. That loss of direction in the camera market meant that when digital cameras began to replace film bodies, they inherited designs based on function, not use, computer placement, not interface, and ease of assembly for mass production, not the layout which would best allow photographers to enjoy their cameras. And whether we like it or not, today those of us who seek out cameras that we want to enjoy using are inheriting a world where those who design cameras now grew up knowing only the cameras from the utilitarian period. That shows in the design of very many cameras today, and Sony, I would argue, typifies in today's market the way in which the utilitarian, design for engineering mentality can permeate mirrorless camera design. The A6400 is an empirically good camera. There's no debate that it is built well, handles well, and works well. I have things that it needs to do, and it does them without complaint, challenge, or problem. From a use perspective, the A6400 is designed well and appropriately. And yes, that's great, but using it doesn't at all excite me because it does not feel like it was designed to be fun to use. The offset viewfinder is one design nicety that allows users to easily and pleasingly use the camera's optical display. But the rest of the camera feels like it was designed by an algorithm. The fold-out screen is nice, but with most of Sony's screens, the A6400 included, it is limited to landscape-oriented fold-out, which in turn limits the camera's use for still photographers. The button layout is fine, standard Sony. Everything is where it's expected to be. The compartment where the battery and SD card share space stands out as a terrible design decision because removing the SD card from the camera is never as easy as it should be. Reversing the battery and card orientation with the SD card on the outside of the chamber would have made this camera much better and easier to use. The A6400 feels like a digital camera that belongs in 1986, at home alongside a Minolta X700 and riding shotgun in the owner's Dodge Omni. This is not an inspiring camera, just one that is useful, reliable, and capable of delivering on its promises. So yes, I picked up my A6400 to be a utilitarian camera to use for hike logs and videos, for taking 4K video and photos with APS-C lenses for this channel's lens reviews, and mostly to do work and deliver images. I never expected to like it or be particularly drawn to using it, but what do you know? Sometimes these things surprise me. But as we've talked about often, a camera is much, much more than just a camera. A camera is the manner in which you, as a photographer, use it, or more accurately, the manner in which it complements your approach to your work. And for all that I have said about this camera being utilitarian, I can also say that as long as I work within its limitations, I do enjoy using it. It is not the camera I reach for when photos need to count. That remains the Pentax K1. But the A6400 is reliable, delivers highly usable images, carries well, and does what I need it to do when I ask it to do it. If that's what you need from a camera, the A6400 will live up to your expectations and then some.